For years, taxpayer-funded subsidies have distorted the energy market, creating an artificial reliance that weakens industries rather than strengthening them. Once companies become dependent on government handouts, they lose the incentives to innovate, cut costs, and compete effectively. Instead of thriving on market forces, they chase subsidies, making them less viable in the long run. The Trump administration understands this and is pushing back. The longer these subsidies persist, the harder it will be for Congress to eliminate them, as industries built on government support resist any effort to wean them off the public money. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin is taking a major step in this fight by targeting the $20 billion Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, a Biden-era program that operates as a green bank, lending taxpayer dollars to environmental projects that private investors wouldn't touch. If these projects had real economic value, they wouldn't need government handouts in the first place. This is part of a larger issue. Over the past 2 decades, wind and solar subsidies have exceeded $9 trillion globally, yet these industries still struggle to stand on their own. The Biden administration doubled down on this approach, pouring billions into renewables through the Infrastructure and Jobs Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. Without massive financial assistance, wind and solar simply wouldn't be commercially viable at their current scale. Normally, market competitions and price signals regulate the balance between energy supply and demand. Subsidies, however, disrupt this balance. By artificially lowering the cost of renewables, they drive out unsubsidized competitors, leaving consumers with fewer choices and higher prices. Even worse, over-reliance on wind and solar threatens grid reliability. Unlike baseload energy sources like natural gas, coal, and nuclear, which can provide power 24/7, solar and wind are intermittent. Solar power floods the grid during the day but disappears at night, right when energy demand spikes. To compensate, utilities must fire up expensive natural gas plants in the evening, driving up costs. Subsidized solar and wind also crowd out reliable baseload energy that keeps the grid stable. This creates price volatility, strains the electrical infrastructure, and increases the risk of blackouts. Recognizing this, Texas recently passed a law requiring new renewable energy projects, beginning in 2027, to provide backup capacity, meaning companies must account for the times their turbines and panels aren't generating power. This forces them to bear the real cost of their unreliability rather than passing it on to taxpayers and consumers. Beyond Zeldin's efforts to dismantle the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, President Trump is making it clear that green energy handouts must end. His administration has signaled an intent to roll back the green tax credits buried in Biden's Inflation Reduction Act, which Goldman Sachs estimates will cost taxpayers over $1 trillion over the next 10 years. Among the most damaging of these subsidies is the production tax credit, which rewards energy production regardless of whether the power is actually needed. This is why wind farms continue to pop up in areas where demand is weak, overloading the grids with energy at times when it isn't required. The Trump administration is right to intervene. The longer these subsidies persist, the more entrenched they become, making them politically difficult to eliminate. What started as temporary credits to prop up wind and solar companies now risks becoming a permanent burden on taxpayers, underpinning the innovation and self-reliance necessary for a robust energy sector. Americans deserve an energy policy that prioritizes competition, innovation, and reliability, not government handouts and political favoritism. By cutting back on costly subsidies, the Trump administration can reduce the deficit, curb inflationary spending, and pave the way for pro-growth tax cuts. Ending subsidies doesn't mean abandoning renewables altogether. It means letting them compete fairly in a free market. If wind and solar can succeed without taxpayer funding lifelines, great. If not, they shouldn't be propped up at the expense of consumers and businesses. Zeldin's push to dismantle the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund is a step in the right direction. But the fight against wasteful green subsidies must continue if America wants to secure a stable, affordable, and resilient energy future. Only by embracing the true market competition and eliminating regulatory roadblocks can the nation achieve long-term energy security. Good luck on the campaign.